Studies Section 3, Introduction to Web Programming, Web Application, Introduction. In the previous study session, we discussed the concept of web programming, identified the difference between client-side and server-side scripting, and also how to deploy a website. Therefore, in this study session, we will learn about web-based applications, web services, and various examples of websites based on their purposes. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to differentiate between web-based application and web services. Examine what a website is. Describe web services. Web applications. Web applications refer to applications accessed via web browser over a network and developed using browser-supported languages, e.g., HTML, JavaScript. For execution, web applications depend on web browsers and include many familiar applications such as online retail sales, online auctions, and webmail. In a collection of servlets, HTML pages, classes, and other resources that can be bundled and run on multiple containers from multiple vendors. One of the main characteristics of a web application is its relationship to the servlet context. Each web application has one and only one servlet context. This relationship is controlled by the servlet container and guarantees that web applications will not clash when storing objects in the servlet context. Web applications are needed in the area of business-to-business interaction over networks, e.g. for overseas companies that outsource projects to each other. The adoption of a web application's infrastructure can provide vital processes such as transfer of funds and updates of pricing information. Because of the complexity of service systems, analysis of each component and subsystem becomes more challenging. In the field of web engineering, the need exists for methodologies for the development of web services. Websites. Websites have evolved from hyper-referenced, text-based research documents to highly interactive, social and collaborative applications for many different purposes. Web content has become increasingly dynamic and based on content provided by the users. Web technologies such as JavaScript, JS, Ajax, and HTML5 have introduced more interactive user interfaces and boosted this transition. Thanks to powerful APIs provided by modern browsers, web applications are already starting to replace traditional desktop applications and native mobile applications. Examples. We will now introduce some popular types for websites that are interesting in terms of scalability and concurrency. Social network sites. Social networks are sites that transfer social interactions to the web. They often try to reflect real-world social relations of its users, e.g. Facebook, or focus on specific topics, e.g. Doppel for traveling. Social network sites motivate their users to interact, for instance, via instant messaging. Also, social networks heavily rely on user-generated content and context-specific data, such as geotagged content. User content and actions are often published into activity streams, providing a real-time feed of updates that can be watched live by other users. Collaborative web applications. These web applications allow a group of people to collaborate via the web. Traditional examples are wiki systems. Take 2. Traditional examples are wiki systems where users can collectively edit versions of text documents. More recent collaborative applications incorporate some real-time aspects. For example, Etherpad is a web-based word processor that supports multiple users working on the same document concurrently. E-commerce site. E-commerce sites such as Amazon are traditional commercial sites in the web selling product online. Interestingly enough, many sites have adopted features known from social sites for business purposes. By commenting, rating, and tagging products, users can participate on this site beyond just buying items. User-generated content is then used to cluster product items and compute accurate recommendations. Thus, commercial sites face similar challenges to social sites to some extent. Web services. Web services provide access to application services using HTTP. Thus, web services often resemble traditional mechanisms for distributed computing such as remote procedure call, RPC, or message passing, though based on web technologies. Opposed to websites, web services are not targeting direct human user access in the first place. Instead, web services enable machine-to-machine communication and provide application features via an interface and structured messages. Several web applications provide both a website and a web service interface (API). While the website is used for browser-based access, the web service can be used for custom applications such as mobile client applications or scripted program-based service interactions. XML RPC. XML RPC has been one of the first attempts to transfer traditional RPC-based services to the web. It makes use of HTTP POST request for dispatching procedure calls and an XML-based serialization format for call parameters and return values. It is important to clarify that XML RPC is using HTTP as a generic transport protocol for RPC calls. It does not take advantage of any HTTP features such as coaching, status codes for error handling, or header fields for negotiation. Figure 3.1 Example XML RPC call. SOAP, WSDL, and WS-**. The stack of SOAP, WSDL, UDDI, and a myriad of additional extensions, WS-**, forms a more comprehensive approach for machine-to-machine communication, mostly based on web technologies. It is widely used and particularly popular in enterprise environments. As previously mentioned, SOAP is a successor of XML RPC. It specifies the format, call semantics, and exchange patterns of XML encoded messages between parties. Various extension specifications, often labeled as WS-** address additional features of SOAP-based web services such as security or orchestration. The Web Services Description Language (WSDL) is another important specification for this kind of web services. It provides XML-based machine-readable service descriptions comparable to interface definition languages of traditional RPC protocols. Universal Description, Discovery, and Integration (UDDI) was originally a third component providing registry functions for web services, but it has almost entirely lost its significance in practice. Although the SOAP/WSDL stack is generally known as Web Service Stack, it dismisses part of the original idea of the web. For instance, the stack uses HTTP as a pure communication protocol for exchanging messages that can be replaced by other protocols. Similarly to XML RPC, this web service stack does not use HTTP as an application-level protocol. Study section summary. In this study session, you learn that 1. Web applications depend on web browsers and include many familiar applications. It is a collection of servlets, HTML pages, classes, and other resources that can be bundled and run on multiple containers from multiple vendors. Web applications infrastructure can provide vital processes such as transfer of funds and updates of pricing information. Some popular types for websites that are interesting in terms of scalability and concurrency are social network sites, e.g. Facebook, collaborative web applications, e.g. Etherpad, e-commerce sites, e.g. eBay. 3. XML RPC has been one of the first attempts to transfer traditional RPC-based services to the web. It makes use of HTTP POST requests for dispatching procedure calls and an XML-based serialization format for call parameters and return values. This is the end of study section 3. Thanks for listening.